Part 50. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 491. Chapter 491 Drinking. In the middle of the night, Ye Wei began to feel very thirsty while sleeping. His head was on the left side and on the right side, and he didn't know what to grab with his hands. Let go, a deep voice whispered in her ear. She could hear it, but she wasn't awake enough. Tonight, a drunken night is not quiet at all. At first I thought I was sleeping peacefully, but in the middle of the night I got up and shouted for water. Then I sat up and muttered a few words and then lay down to sleep. Yezikin, who was not sleepy, felt very helpless at her series of actions, but still silently got out of bed and got a glass of boiling water, bringing it to the mouth-friendly temperature. Before she even started to give her water, she reached out and hugged her. How can you drink water without opening your eyes or letting go of your hands? Little Belle, if you don't let go, the water will spill out. Let go. She wouldn't stop no matter what, so Yezikin had no choice but to use force, to force her fingers away. You little fool, you're still so lazy when you're thirsty. He used a spoon to scoop water to her mouth like a child, and fed her water in small sips. Ye Wei touched the water, slowly opened his eyes, saw the cup in front of him, hugged it, and took a sip. After drinking, he smashed his mouth, threw his head back and fell asleep again. Oh, little guy. Yezikin really couldn't do anything to her. By the time he woke up the next day, Ye Wei had forgotten what happened in the middle of the night and felt his head was heavy. Another point. Ye Wei will clearly remember what happened when he woke up after being drunk. In the middle of the night, he was in a state of confusion and did not have memories, but he remembered clearly what happened when he held the bottle of wine and embarrassed Yezikin. Oh my God! When she thought about the shameless things she had done, she covered her head with the quilt, really not wanting to show her face. Because she found that she would touch Yezikin every time after drinking. Take advantage. MRS, terrible. But why? She still had a picture in her mind of Yezikin taking a piece of paper and a pen and asking her to write down the name Jiaoling, but she didn't pay attention to the content on the paper at that time. So she had no idea what she was writing. He called her to sign twice, both times when she couldn't see the content on the paper. This was very strange. But for a moment I couldn't figure out what it was for. Getting out of bed, she saw the breakfast ready on the table. I walked a few steps in my slippers and heard the sound of running water from the shower in the bathroom. The phone on the table suddenly vibrated. She picked it up and saw that it was Su Tangzi calling Yezikin. Su Tangzi. Ye Wei answered the call and waited silently for the other party to speak first. Unexpectedly, Su Tangzi called out his name directly at the exit, Yezikin. Ye Wei had to reveal himself. I'm not Yezikin, I'm Jiao Li. How come you answered the phone? Where is your brother? Elder brother? What brother? Everyone knew that she and Yezikin were not siblings, but Su Tangzi forced them to treat them as siblings every time. She glanced at the bathroom and slightly raised the corners of her mouth. Brother Chen is taking a shower. What should I take a shower in the morning? You guess. Jiao Li, why are you so shameless? Who are you calling shamelessly? It's you who's being scolded. Su Tangzi was so angry when she realized what she said. Jiao Ling, don't be complacent. I tell you that the equity transfer contract has been completely destroyed by me. Ha 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 ha, these two constant routines, the heroine uses them to annoy the heroine, it feels very good to watch. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 492. Chapter 492, Take some photos. Ye Wei caught the key point in Su Tangzi's words, but she didn't know, what equity transfer contract. Stop pretending, didn't you sign it last night? But I can tell you that the contract has been destroyed by me if I make another one, the people below will not be so easy to persuade. Su Tangzi deliberately lowered his voice, with a hint of pride in his tone. Yezikin's only thought suddenly returned to last night. Last night, Yezikin asked her to sign twice. Could it be the contract Su Tangzi mentioned? She has no idea what she signed. I don't know what you are talking about. Even though he was confused, Ye Wei did not ask Su Tangzi further. She looked calm and her voice was a little softer. Sister Su, do you have anything else to do? Of course there is, but not just anyone can know those things. Since Yezikin can't answer the phone for the time being, hang up and say goodbye. Su Tangzi can leave the sentence to comfort her. Hang up immediately after speaking. At this time, Yezikin just came out of the bathroom after taking a shower. He had put on his clothes and was wiping his hair with a towel. Ye Wei walked up to him and smiled slightly. Brother, let me wipe your hair. Yezikin didn't respond, but handed her the towel directly. Considering the height difference between the two, Yezikin could only sit down. Ye Wei's movements were gentle. She told Yezikin the truth without hiding anything. Sister Su just called. She says. Ye Wei deliberately delayed, and Yezikin had to pay attention. What did she say? Ye Wei hesitated for a moment, but still told the truth. She said that I signed a contract, but she destroyed it. But I don't remember what contract I signed. So strange. You guessed it, didn't you? What? Although you get drunk easily, you will never forget what happened after you were drunk, and you can still remember it clearly. You know I asked you to sign twice last night. Are you curious? Both of them were shocked by each other's honesty. There was no need to hide some things deliberately. But Ye Wei still didn't ask. She replied, I'm curious, but I believe that my brother will not harm me. If Yezikin deliberately hid it from her, then she wouldn't ask the truth. In short, she believed that the man would not harm her. Such trust is extremely valuable. Yezikin reached out and took back the towel from her, stood up and turned to face her, pinched her cheek. You are really good. Yezikin was about to put the towel back into the bathroom. Seeing Ye Wei standing there blankly, he reached out and took her hand and took her in to wash up. Seeing that her mood was affected, Yezikin whispered gently in her ear, there are some things that I can't hide from you. You will know when the time comes. Don't think too much, okay? I remember you are going out with Yu and Ran today. Yes, and Ran came here with great difficulty. She didn't like to interact with people before, but now she has studied law, and wow, she looks super serious. I want to take her for a walk. In fact, it was Yu and Ran's family that caused her to be indifferent to everything. In addition, the incident in B had a great impact on her. Yu and Ran is now unwilling to contact new people at all. Then have fun. If you need anything you can tell me. Don't worry, brother, I won't be polite. Take some photos and come back. Photo. Don't forget brother Chen and Kitano's JQ. Welfare notice, tomorrow is Children's Day and Chinese Valentine's Day. People will be selected in the welfare group to give gifts. If you have a fan value of 2000 disciple, you can join the book club group 1450160019, and then privately stamp the administrator 3.5 years old to enter the welfare group. There will be irregular welfare every month. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 493. Chapter 493 Acting ugly on purpose because she is too beautiful. You haven't sent me your photos for a long time. His words seemed a bit aggrieved. Ye Wei knocked on his head and said, yeah, then I'll take a few pictures when Ran and I go shopping. Because she stayed in S City to attend high school, while Yezikin went to college in G City, so the two places were separated, so yeah, I often posted recent photos. It's almost the first semester since I came here, and I really haven't updated Yezikin's photo album with any photos of myself. She had breakfast quickly and made an appointment with Yuan Ran at a time and place to meet. Yuan Ran is still dressed like a professional woman, and the calmness she once had has turned into the indifference she has now. "And Ran, you wear such serious clothes when you go out to play with me." Looking at his pink woolen coat, and comparing the two of them standing together, if you don't look at their faces, you really feel like they are the elder and the younger. "I'm so anxious." "Your appreciation level is not low, and Ran. Why do you dress yourself up like this?" Yuan Ran doesn't put on makeup or wear youthful and beautiful clothes, as if she doesn't want to dress up. "There are too many people in the school, which is too troublesome." "Oh, I understand." Yeah, I immediately thought of the reason. Is it because Ayn Rand is so beautiful that many boys in the school pursue her? But Ayn Rand doesn't like those people, so she dresses herself like this on purpose. Well, maybe so. She deliberately dressed in an old-fashioned way, but her naturally beautiful face and the temperament she cultivated since childhood could not be concealed. There are always boys approaching her on purpose. Sometimes when she walks to campus, she will be approached and asked for her contact information. She doesn't like to say random things to those people, but she turns around and walks away and might be caught up. "Don't you want to fall in love?" "Not interested in." Yuan Ran admitted without hesitation, and it was clear from the plain expression on her face that she did not have this intention. Ye Wei wanted to ask, but when he opened his mouth, he didn't know where to start, which only added to his worries. "And Ran, let's go shopping and pick out clothes." "Can." When she was playing with Gongqin Li, Xiaoziun, and the others, Ye Wei was always dragged to go shopping with them. But when she met someone like Yuan Ran, who was more greedy than her, she also thought about shopping. According to Yuan Ran's style, I looked for a forest-style store. A retro forest-style cherry-colored dress, the two of them chose it at the same time. Ye Wei raised the skirt to Yuan Ran to compare it, and thought it looked good. "And Ran, try this, the fabric is quite thick. It is a winter group, and if you pair it with a coat, you will not be cold." "Okay, let me try." Ye Wei sat outside the fitting room and waited for a while. Yuan Ran had already changed clothes and came out. The long skirt she just changed into didn't match her original jacket, so naturally she didn't wear a jacket. Ye Wei looked at her dress, which was slim and dignified, and it set off her temperament very well. "I think it looks good," she nodded with satisfaction, her eyes falling on Yuan Ran's neck. Yuan Ran is wearing a skull necklace. That kind of men's pendant looks particularly prominent when hanging on a slender and white neck. "This necklace," I hesitated to speak. But as soon as she opened her mouth, Yuan Ran subconsciously raised his hand to cover the skull. Yi was very sure who the owner of that necklace was. She didn't know when Yuan Ran started wearing it. "Not only did you stay, but you also wore it yourself." Yuan Ran replied, "I don't know where to put it." "Didn't you think about going to find him?" End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Ixie. Chapter 494. Chapter 494 Women Chasing Men. What qualifications do I have to go to him? You are more qualified than anyone else to go to him because you once lost a hand for him. The atmosphere of the conversation between the two suddenly became serious. Yuan Ran always felt that she could not withstand the pressure of her mother and gave up on B. She felt that she was sorry for B's sincerity. But in Ye Wei's view, Yuan Ran had no choice but to choose a way to have both ends of the world, and even lost her dream in her best years. Yuan Ran's hand has been trying every means to recover, but no matter how many methods he tried and many authoritative doctors found, nothing worked. She usually touches things just like ordinary people, but this time she has never been able to lift heavy objects or even play a musical instrument. Ye Wei walked towards her, keeping her eyes on the necklace. She could tell Yuan Ran, it's not that you don't know where to put it, but that you always keep it in your heart. And Ran, whether it's people or things, if it belongs to you, you must hold it tightly and never let others take it away. The tone of the last half of the sentence is very firm. This is the only principle that Ye has always believed in. Yuan Ran did not respond after hearing this, but changed the subject and praised her. Qiao Qiao, you are braver than me. I'm not brave, I'm just selfish. When it comes to how to like someone, Ye Wei has his own ideas, and sometimes, you shouldn't just rely on yourself to guess. If you are more honest, you might get unexpected gains. Maybe. Yuan Ran did not deny it, but he never said what he was going to do. The only thing she didn't tell Ye was that B had left to find the path he should take. And she still couldn't decide which way to go. Even if she is studying law now, it is impossible to engage in work in that field. She has responsibilities to the Yu family and will eventually return there. Forget it, don't think about it. Look how beautiful you look in this skirt, let me take 2 pictures for you. Yuan Ran has a very fair complexion and can hold up no matter what color of clothes she wears. After confirming the purchase of the skirt, Ye Wei chose a jacket to match it. Okay, it's perfect. Of course, Ye Wei also asked Yuan Ran to take a few pictures of her and happily sent them to Yezikan. They played until noon, when Gong Qinli called her and asked her to play with her. But Li Yulai, I have class this afternoon. There are no classes in the afternoon, and there are 3 classes in the afternoon. Oh my God, the only thing you can do is stop being so honest and skip class. After being speechless, Yezi chose to compromise, I'll ask for leave from the teacher. It is a great regret in life not to skip classes in college. Gong Qinli is free and uninhibited by nature and does things differently. Yuan Ran patted her shoulder after hearing this, just in time, I'm going back to school too, so she can accompany you in the afternoon. Okay, do you want me to send you off? Yuan Ran smiled and glanced at her, you are the one who makes people more worried, right? Yuan Ran can actually joke. One was about to leave, and the other was about to come. Ye Wei simply waited where he was. Gong Qinli was so fast that she came to play with her, neither to eat nor to go shopping and buy clothes. Li Yulai, you came out alone, what about brother Nangong? He is too old to be thrown away. I mainly want to ask you about other things today. You say. What's Guchensi's phone number? Welfare notice, tomorrow is Children's Day and Chinese Valentine's Day. We will draw people in the welfare group to give gifts. If you have a fan value of 2000 disciple, you can join the book club group 1450160019, and then privately stamp the administrator 3.5 years old to enter the welfare group. There will be a regular welfare every month. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 495. Chapter 495 Mrs. Jiao spoke. You like Guchensi? What about brother Nangong? If she were drinking water, she would definitely burst out because of these words. Just now, after Gong Qinli asked her for her phone number, Ye Wei asked a few more questions and learned that Gong Qinli had some interest in Guchensi. She really couldn't understand it. How could you like Guchensi? That big iceberg is so gloomy and cold, and he is always against her. Oh, I didn't say I liked Guchensi. Besides, what does this have to do with Nangong Luo? Ye Wei answered honestly, I always thought you would be with brother Nangong. Because she is not the only one who thinks so, almost everyone who knows them thinks so. The man is talented and the woman is good looking, they are of the right family, and they have a good relationship. It is a pity not to be together. But Gong Qinli told her firmly, I don't like Nangong Luo's style. We are just pure friends. Ye Wei shook her head, sorry that she really couldn't understand. How can you have such a good relationship with the opposite unless you are with the person you like? And I didn't say that I like Gu Jinsi, I just think he is quite handsome and mysterious, and I want to get to know him. If that's the case, why don't you ask Brother Nangong if they are familiar with each other? Those two were familiar with each other when they played games together. But in fact, Gong Qinli had already asked. She became very angry when she mentioned Nangong Luo, that stingy guy. I asked, but he came over and asked me who is more handsome, him or Gu Jinsi. Then did you answer? I answered it. What did you answer? I said Gu Jinsi is more handsome than you. Now he said it so honestly. I know you want to say that you should praise the person involved, but what I thought was that our relationship is so good, so I just made a joke. Who knew he was so stingy and got angry, and said that he would not tell me his contact information. Lu Li, do you really think Brother Nangong is not as handsome as Gu Jinsi? Of course not, they are not the same type at all, there is no way to compare them. They all have high quality looks, but the styles of the two are so different that there is really no way to compare them. Each has its own advantages. Hearing this, I breathed a sigh of relief. It seems you can still be saved. Gong Qinli retorted unwillingly, my emotional intelligence is not low. Wei shook his head, looked down at his phone, copied Gu Jinsi's phone number and sent it to her. As long as you are happy. In any case, she didn't believe that Gong Qinli would really like Gu Jinsi's style. When Ye Wei was playing with her mobile phone, Gong Qinli suddenly discovered a shiny silver thing between her fingers. Gong Qinli grabbed her finger and looked excited, is this a ring on your hand? Brother Chen proposed to you. Ye Wei shook his head in reply, it's not a proposal. Oh, ring, you still want to lie to me? It wasn't really a proposal, he just asked me if I wanted to be his girlfriend. Holy shit, Gong Qinli sighed deeply, then you agree and your relationship will be officially established, right? Ye nodded silently. Gong Qinli clapped excitedly. You guys are simply awesome. With a smile on his face, Ye Wei watched a text message pop up on his phone page, which was sent by Pei Yuchen. She clicked on it and saw that it was Pei Yuchen who brought good news, Madam has started to speak out today. The story about Grandma Chiao should be finished soon on Kixi Festival. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 496. Chapter 496 Give Mrs. Giao chronic poison. It's great that my grandma can talk now. Wei was very happy when she received the news, while Li Mo'er, who received the news at about the same time as her, looked sad. This dead old woman really won't be able to recover. If Mrs. Giao is allowed to speak, everything she has done will be exposed. Li Mo'er frowned and dialed a phone call with uneasiness. How did you do it? You convinced her that the thing was just to make her appear to be in good spirits, but it was actually a chronic poison. But now, she can actually talk. I don't know what the person opposite said in reply, but Li Mo'er's brows still couldn't relax. In the end, he said impatiently, okay, you should resign from the hospital and leave as soon as possible. Li Mo'er simply packed up and rushed to the hospital to visit. Pei Yuchen was very touched by her behavior. Miss Mo'er, Madam can only speak a little now, you don't have to ask for leave, I believe Madam will understand. How can that be done? I finally waited until there was news about Grandma's recovery. I was so happy that I couldn't help but rush over. Li Mo'er pretended to be in front of Pei Yuchen and really got away with it. There was no one in the ward. Li Mo'er walked in alone and saw Mrs. Giao lying motionless on the bed with a very ugly expression on her face. Mrs. Giao closed her eyes as if she had been sleeping. Limor walked around the hospital bed, but couldn't see much difference. Possible. Because it comes often, casual changes cannot be noticed. Grandma, are you asleep? Moer is here to see you. Limor squatted beside the bed and called her softly. Mrs. Giao vaguely heard someone calling her grandma again in her dream, and she seemed to see her granddaughter Jiao Ling smiling sweetly at her and acting coquettishly beside her. Limor saw the change in Mrs. Jiao's sleeping face, as if she was having a sweet dream. Limor reached into the quilt of the bed and pinched Mrs. Jiao hard. Mrs. Jiao felt pain and woke up from her sleep. She opened her eyes suddenly, moved her eyes around, and caught a glimpse of Limor at the bedside, and her pupils suddenly dilated. Limor was not afraid at all when he saw her waking up. He lied next to her hypocritically and said, "Grandma, you finally woke up. Moer is really worried about you." Ah! Mrs. Jiao let out a hoarse roar, and Limor grabbed the tissue beside the bed and held her mouth, applying force. "Old woman, don't scream." It was very uncomfortable to have her mouth covered, not to mention that Limor's hand was so heavy and unrestrained that Mrs. Jiao's face became distorted. Limor smiled even more heartily when he saw her sad expression. She's really in good spirits. Mrs. Jiao finally lost the strength to struggle, and Limor slowly let go. She threw the tissue into the trash can and felt her hands were dirty. Going to the bathroom inside to wash her hands, Limor was very repulsed by the smell of disinfectant in the ward. "It's really uncomfortable, but it won't take long and I won't have to come back again." Limor faced the mirror and muttered to himself, not knowing what he said. Finally, he returned to Mrs. Jiao and sat on the edge of the bed. "Grandma, I'm really sorry, just now I didn't mean to do it, but if you yelled randomly and called people over, you would be in trouble. Now that there is only Limor, Mrs. Jiao really doesn't dare to scream because she can't resist." But as soon as Limor lowered his head and wiped his eyes, tears flowed out. "Grandma, it was Moer who was ignorant in the past. Can you forgive me?" End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 497. Chapter 497. She is Liaoer. "Grandma, if you forgive me, just say yes." Limor raised a finger and locked his eyes on Mrs. Jiao. Mrs. Jiao blinked and said seriously. Limor smiled broadly and said, "Grandma, you are so kind." Having said that, her smile did not reach her eyes. She won't believe this old lady. After all, Mrs. Jiao is also someone who works in shopping malls, and she is still a little different from ordinary old people. She will not be stubborn, but only deliberately complies with Limor's words, so that Limor will not be stimulated to do bad things. But Limor won't believe it, and has already made plans for himself. As long as Mrs. Jiao waits until the chronic poison in her body takes effect, she can rest easy. She doesn't trust anyone but herself. Mrs. Jiao's spirit was getting better and better, but something unexpected happened. The doctor paid attention to this, and Mrs. Jiao's physical fitness suddenly began to decline. After careful examination, hanshi powder was found in her body. "How come there is hanshi powder?" Pei Yuchen was shocked. "There are 5 kinds of stone medicine: stalactite, amethyst, white quartz, sulfur, and hematite. At least it can cause people to become comatose and cause hallucinations, and at most it can lead to death." For a while, Pei Yuchen did not dare to tell Ye Wei about this, so he could only find another authoritative expert for diagnosis and treatment. But this matter cannot be hidden from Limor, who often comes to visit Mrs. Jiao. Limor was scared and cried on the spot when she heard the news. "How is that possible? I don't understand the medicines you are talking about, but why did Grandma become like this? Mrs. Jiao's spirit is not as good as before, her spirit is shrinking day by day, and her body is losing weight rapidly. She said and every day, but she couldn't speak. "Doctor, please take a good look at my grandma," Lee Moore asked the doctor. In the eyes of others, she was a filial granddaughter who was worried about her grandma. Because Mrs. Giao has stayed in the hospital for a long time, some people even compare Lonely and Yue in casual chats. "I heard that Miss Giao is her granddaughter, and Miss Moore is just a junior with whom we have a good relationship." "Well, when I didn't know the name, I thought Miss Moore was the old lady's granddaughter. She comes here twice this week and once every few weeks." Tisk tisk. "Yeah, it's better to recognize someone than to be close to each other. It's really interesting. They only know one thing but not the other, so they make random guesses based on what they usually see. I have to say that Mrs. Giao external behavior after she was hospitalized was impeccable. Everyone said she was filial. Little did she know that everything she did was to monitor Mrs. Giao activities at all times to prevent the bad things she had done from being revealed. Especially in the recent period, Lee Moore comes to the hospital to stay after school almost every day. She is not afraid of hardship. Because she knew that in a short time, Mrs. Giao trouble would be completely eliminated, and from now on she could sit back and relax. It was too difficult, but Lee Moore still came to the hospital. She was sitting next to her playing with her mobile phone when she suddenly heard someone talking. "Yi Chen." Lee Moore frowned, turned to look at the bed, and found Mrs. Giao slowly raising her hand. "Yi Chen. There is really a sound." Lee Moore quickly stood up and walked to the bed, clearly seeing Mrs. Giao opening her mouth to speak. Mrs. Giao saw a young girl in front of her and suddenly shouted to her, "Liao welfare notice, tomorrow is Children's Day and Chinese Valentine's Day. We will draw people in the welfare group to give gifts. If you have a fan value of 2000 disciple, you can join the book club group 145016019, and then privately stamp the administrator 3.5 years old to enter the welfare group. There will be a regular welfare every month." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 498. Chapter 498 wants me to marry Yezikin. Hearing Mrs. Giao address, Lee Moore frowned tightly. Could it be that the medicine worked and caused the old woman to hallucinate? Lee Moore waved his hand in front of Mrs. Giao, seeing that her eyes were not very clear. Mrs. Zhao's voice was not very steady, and her hands were slightly raised and moved left and right as if touching something. Lee Moore knew that Mrs. Zhao must be thinking about Ye Wei in her heart, so she called out this name. "You see clearly, I don't." Halfway through his words, Lee Moore suddenly thought of something else. She did not deny Mrs. Zhao's words, but took the opportunity to replace Ye Wei's identity. Lee Moore sat beside the bed, gently held Mrs. Zhao's hands, and deliberately slowed down her voice. "Grandma, it's me, I'm Jiao Li." Mrs. Zhao tried very hard to speak, but she couldn't even call out a name. Lee Moore couldn't understand those silent words, but saw Mrs. Zhao's tears rolling down. Lee Moore cooperated with her performance. "Grandma, don't talk. You must take good care of yourself. Your body is the most important thing." "Well." This time Mrs. Zhao opened her mouth, and Lee Moore roughly understood what she meant. Lee Moore was disgusted when she saw Mrs. Zhao's moved face, but she had to pretend to be a good granddaughter. "Grandma, please get well soon, you are the only relative I have. I didn't know until now that the Ye family who adopted me was not my benefactor at all, but my enemy," Lee Moore said and began to cry pitifully. "Actually, there is something I have been afraid to tell others. I already know that it was Ye Hantian who teamed up with others to kill my father and then took the opportunity to annex the company. Moreover, in order to get my mother, he forced me many times, but my mother was unwilling. This matter was also reported to Mrs. Ye. You know, Madame Ye was so angry that she found someone to ruin mommy's innocence. Lee Moore has lived in Yejia for many years and knows a little bit about what happened back then, But it's not comprehensive. She deliberately added fuel to the fire and put all the hatred on the Ye family. Without saying a word, she saw Mrs. Jiao's eyes becoming fierce and filled with hatred. At the beginning, I watched my mother being humiliated and jumping off a building to commit suicide. But I was too young at the time and thought it was just an accident. Now that I know the truth, I only hate myself for being blind to recognize a thief as my father. It's all my granddaughter's fault. Grandma, you can scold me. I just hope you get better soon and avenge them. Mrs. Jiao's hands grasped the sheets tightly, and the horizontal wrinkles on her face looked like layers of distant mountains, making her look even more aged. Li Mo'er cried and observed, smiling proudly in his heart. Grandma, please save me, please save me. Yahantian always said that my mother and I looked very similar once he was drunk and even tried to force me. I finally escaped to find Brother Chen, but I heard him say that the Ye family only took care of me to gain a good reputation, and he never treated me sincerely. Li Mo'er lowered his head, as if he was out of breath from crying, and felt really aggrieved. She cried and said, I have just grown up, and Yahantian actually wants me to marry Yezikin to satisfy his desire to pursue my mother. I feel really disgusted. My granddaughter really doesn't dare to stay with the Ye family anymore. Grandma, they are going to harm me. After hearing the last sentence, Mrs. Jiao began to gasp for breath. It's Children's Day. If Kaibao leaves a message for a kid like me, will I still be rewarded? 3 consecutive cute acts, Kakovo. Welfare notice, today is Children's Day and Chinese Valentine's Day. People will be selected in the welfare group to give gifts. If you have a fan value of 2000 disciple, you can join the book club group 1450160019, and then privately stamp the administrator 3.5 years old to enter the welfare group. There will be a regular welfare every month. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 499. Chapter 499 Critical Illness Notification. Grandma, I hate Yejia and Yezikin, but they forced me. Grandma, you must recover quickly and save me. Mrs. Jiao was trembling all over. She struggled to pronounce the words but could not speak. She now completely regarded Li Mo'er as the only one in the night and believed in her words. Li Mo'er resisted the discomfort and lowered her head, letting Mrs. Jiao proudly touch her cheek, which was still warm with tears. Now Mrs. Jiao is still speechless, but Li Mo'er is still a little anxious. Mrs. Jiao misses her granddaughter so much that she often thinks of Li Mo'er as Ye Weiwei, and sometimes she even wants to tell her the truth about her injury. Although Li Mo'er would deliberately misunderstand those words every time, she was still afraid that Pei Yuchen would know. Fortunately, Pei Yuchen now trusts him very much. However, Mrs. Jiao's physical condition is very poor. In just 1 week, she has become much haggard. Although she can speak a word or two, she herself does not know what she is talking about, and neither do others. In Mrs. Jiao's mind, the idea that the Ye family had harmed her son and daughter-in-law, and also persecuted her granddaughter Jiaoling, was deeply ingrained. She almost forgot about Li Mo'er, who had done evil to her and refused to save her. All she could think about was revenge on Yejia. Don't let your granddaughter fall into the poisonous claws of the Ye family. But to pick you up, Mrs. Jiao spends more and more time sleeping, and the time she spends awake is only a minority. I am not in good spirits and my body is gradually losing weight. Looking into the reasons, we only know that there are some effects of hanshi powder. But they checked all the supplies and found nothing unusual. Even though they had suspicions, they checked with people around them and found that a nurse who had taken care of the old lady had left her job. Mr. Chiao, who is far away from abroad, has rushed back to accompany his wife. Although Mrs. Jiao was married for the second time to him, this did not affect their relationship. Some people are destined to be together, like these two people who met in middle age, and their feelings are very deep. What's more, Mrs. Jiao has accompanied him all the way, they are husband and wife and close friends. Honey, we agreed to find a granddaughter and enjoy family happiness. Mr. Jiao had no children in his life. When he learned that his wife was coming back to find his granddaughter, he supported her. He had also met Li Mo'er before, but he never expected that in the end, they both recognized the wrong person. Finally found Xiao Lian, but missed it again. Mr. Qiao has been in this hospital for 2 days. He has seen Li Mo'er come here often, but he has never seen Ye Yi. Mr. Qiao was a little dissatisfied. Why doesn't this Xiao Lian come back to take a look? Pei Yuchen could only tell the truth. The lady only knows that Mrs. Gu's voice is recovering from Ye Weiwei's secret. She came back last time to see her, but Yi Chen did not inform her of her current situation. Why don't you say it? Miss often calls to care about my wife's situation. Yi Chen also considers that Miss has many things that have not been dealt with, so he hides it. Ye Yiwei officially joined an entrepreneurial team after her coming-of-age ceremony. She was like Yezikin back then, and started endlessly planning and communicating projects. Pei Yuchen knew her determination and saw that Mrs. Jiao regarded Li Mo'er as her granddaughter, so she deliberately hid it. After hearing what happened to the Jiao family back then, Mr. Jiao also sighed. It's just a pain for the child. They delayed for a few more days, hoping that the old lady could recover soon. But Mrs. Jiao's health has not improved. They all expected a miracle to happen, until the doctors started to notify the family members and issued a critical illness notice. Today I went to see Doraemon on Chinese Valentine's Day, had a children's meal, and played the claw machine. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 500. Chapter 500, They were all deceived by Li Mo'er. On this day, Ye Weiwei received a call from Pei Yuchen. Hello. Pa. The smile on his face disappeared, and he even dropped his cell phone to the ground. Before the other party hung up, Ye Weiwei hurriedly picked up the phone and saw that the upper half of the screen had been smashed to pieces. Qiao, what's wrong with you? Xiaoziun, who was putting on makeup, heard a noise and turned around to find Ye Weiwei standing there in a daze. Because his back was turned, his expression could not be seen clearly. Xiaoziun thought she just dropped her phone, and turned back to the mirror to continue putting on makeup. Leng Rugjiu, who had just come in from the balcony after washing clothes, happened to see Ye Weiwei standing there and noticed obvious tears in the corners of her eyes. What's wrong with you? Ye Weiwei raised his hand and wiped his tears. I have something to do at home, and I will be going back soon. Please ask for leave for me this afternoon. She picked up the phone and wanted to call Yezikin, but then she remembered that during the call last night, she heard that Yezikin was working on an important project recently and was working overtime at night and was very busy. No, Qiao Li, you have to be stronger. You cannot rely on Yezikin regardless of the situation. She booked a flight ticket back to City S as soon as possible, single person. 3 hours later. Ye Weiwei got off the car at the entrance of the hospital and ran in regardless of the appearance. By the time she went upstairs and walked through the corridor, she was already out of breath. She saw Pei Yuchen and Mr. Qiao standing outside the door, and Li Mo'er was guarding there at the same time. What happened to Grandma? She said a word, put one hand on her heart and took a breath. Doctors are still rescuing her. Hearing Pei Yuchen's answer, Ye Weiwei closed his eyes and leaned against the cold wall. She suddenly opened her eyes and asked again, why is this happening? It's obviously already healed. Pei Yuchen was about to tell her that he could hide it. Li Mo'er rushed up to accuse her, what's wrong? You don't pay attention to Grandma's physical condition at all. Don't you know that grandma has been sick for 2 weeks? I. Ye was speechless because she didn't know. She has been busy planning the case in the past 2 weeks, and she barely sleeps for about 6 hours a day. Usually, the only way to know about Mrs. Jiao's condition is through a phone call with Pei Yuchen, but Pei Yuchen told her that her body was recovering. That's why she sat on the task at hand without any worries. She didn't want to believe Li Mo'er, but when Mr. Chiao and Pei Yuchen were both there, Li Mo'er had no reason to lie. Yes, only gaze was on Pei Yuchen, a little disbelieving. Assistant Pei? Is what she said true? She stared closely, searching for answers. Pei Yuchen nodded. I'm sorry, I hid the situation about the lady for fear of causing trouble to the lady, but I didn't expect. Pei Yuchen also had good intentions, but he didn't expect that Mrs. Jiao had not woken up all day and night, and her health was declining. Li Mo'er took the opportunity to ridicule Ye Yi, sarcastically accusing her of being unfilial. That's enough, stop arguing. After all, Mr. Chiao couldn't bear to listen. As soon as he stopped him, Li Mo'er finally calmed down. Everyone else thought that Li Mo'er was angry because she felt sorry for Mrs. Jiao, but no one accused her of being rude to Ye Yi. Ye Wei was upset. Lao Jiao seemed to have aged 10 years overnight. Ye Wei tried to stay strong and cheered up to comfort Mr. Chiao. Grandpa, you should also take care of yourself. A few hours later, the doctor came out of the operating room and bowed deeply to them. Sorry, we have done our best. End of this chapter.